So it started sort of yesterday evening, and it's been a long night. So we know the helicopter, I think it was one of three traveling together, but we'd heard that it had, I think, what was initially reported as a hard landing, and that was sort of yesterday evening. And then I think it's just taken a great deal of time to actually get to this site. It's in a mountainous area. We've seen some of the social media videos being sent out from the site, and things are very foggy. There was heavy rain and so on. So they did send some helicopters in to try and find the site, but I should say they couldn't see anything through the fog. So they had to go basically in cars or 4x4s and go and find the site. And really that only happened in the last couple of hours. And then the death has been confirmed by state media, I suppose, in the last hour or so. So it's been a long time since the initial reports and then the confirmation that he is indeed dead.
Now, Raisi was an ultra-conservative cleric, a former Chief Justice, and had been the favourite to eventually succeed the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. How does this affect the hardline leadership of Iran, which has faced protests over issues like the economy and human rights?
It has. I mean, I think in terms of the long-term implication for Iran, it doesn't really change the equation. So there were really two favourites to take over from Khamenei, the supreme leader. One was obviously Raisi, and the second one was Khamenei's son, who is, as you can guess, also something of an ultra-conservative. So it was a choice between two very hard-line figures. So in terms of that future, if things transpire the way we anticipate them, then you still end up with a hardline leadership one way or another. Now, what potentially changes here is in terms of just the balance of power within the internal hardline camps, because you have the military in the form of, well, you have the army, but you also have the IRGC. And then there are potentially some changes there, but, you know, if fundamentally anyone's anticipating a major change of policy direction as a result of Raisi's death, I don't think that's going to be the case in the slightest.
Mm. What then does it mean for the conflict in the Middle East? I mean, Iran does have a very, opaque political system, as you say, restricted political structure. But in terms of the external facing conflict within the Middle East, Iran did launch a drone and missile attack against Israel last month. That was seen also as a counterattack. Iran and Israel and open conflict, that has been a significant worry.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think it changes a great deal, because ultimately the final decision on what was launched and where to was taken by Khamenei. And obviously he remains in office. When he's eventually replaced, potentially by a son, again, you should anticipate quite a similar sort of set of circumstances in terms of that decision making. So going forward, yes, Iran will continue to support its proxies across the region, but at the same time, it really depends what happens on the ground in Gaza.
What practically does this mean for Iran at the moment? What is the succession plan for the president, and does it mean that there will be further elections?
It does. So we don't know exactly when they take place. For now, the vice president takes over, and then new elections take place, we presume, in the next several months. But of course, those election process is absolutely different to what you would anticipate in a Western democracy. So there is an assembly of experts who basically decides who can run and who can't. And as we saw in the last election in 2021, fundamentally they will only allow ultra-conservative candidates to stand. So I think in the 2021 election, which is the one Raisi won, it was something like 600 candidates came forward, and I think only basically a dozen got through that final vetting process. And there were no, veteran politicians. There were no moderates. There were nothing even resembling a moderate in the final camp. As a consequence of which, you saw this record low turnout for the election. Basically, there is a very large proportion of the electorate in Iran that has effectively given up on those elections, ever really offering them any sort of choice beyond one ultra-conservative over another.